Hello, welcome to another daily challenge. It looks like I missed out on a fun one yesterday. 68 grand, 36 grand. But now, for today, I'm just gonna have 18 grand to compare to. So I guess I'll try and beat that. Today's challenge is going to be about anime and manga. You probably know what anime is. You've probably at least seen stereotypical stuff. Manga is just the graphic novel equivalent. They're not thin and skinny like American comic books. They're actual books. And a lot of the time it's in Japanese reading style, which is backwards to us, which is from right to left, top to bottom. So it's not completely backwards, it's not, bottom to top, but the back of the book is the front of the book, if it's a traditional manga. I'm going to be talking about it because there's a lot of... Most people probably think they know anime and that they hate it, but the fact is that they don't really know what anime is. They probably just know a specific demographic of anime. And it's what's usually out there and easy to find. The main thing you probably think of when you hear anime is characters with overly expressed emotions, gigantic eyes, tiny mouths that suddenly become really huge, sweat drops appearing on the side of their head, veins bursting out of their head when they get angry, just a bunch of silly, cartoonish kid stuff. And that is a demographic called Shounen. Shounen is meant for young boys. It is cartoons, basically. Their demographic is, 17 and younger, typically teenagers and younger. So, they're trying to appeal to kids. They're not trying to appeal to adults. The other demographics that are out there are Shoujo, which you might also see as stereotypical anime. That is the female equivalent of shonen. That is targeted towards young girls. Then there is Seinen, which is what I typically read, and that is targeting towards adult males. I did not see that was a giant spider. Seinen targets generally 18 to 30 range. They have characters who actually have character development. They learn life lessons. They get put into real life situations. It's not just some character getting better and better and somehow they're just magically never having any real challenges. They just run into stronger enemies and somehow defeat them every single time. That's not something that you'll find in the Seinen. Seinen focuses on reality and characters that actually have, proper character development. And I'll be giving some examples throughout this. The other demographic that I haven't mentioned is the adult equivalent of Shoujo, and it is called Josei, and it targets adult women. It's typically, as you probably expect, things like soap opera style plots. Things that would entertain adult women generally. So there's a couple things that are shonen that are actually, in my opinion, not necessarily shonen. They're pretty borderline. One of them is FullMetal Alchemist. Many have heard of that one. That one's actually quite mainstream. And it is about two kids who lose their mother. And there's something that they call alchemy, but it's not the alchemy that you're thinking of if you know what alchemy actually is in the real world. It's kind of based off of that. And it's kind of also based off of Wiccan things. Oh no. Really? Really? I'm gonna get killed by a snake pit. That was nonsense. Geez, I shouldn't talk about FullMetal Alchemist very much then now. So yeah, they draw circles, and if they do it correctly, they can get certain things. And something that's forbidden in their world was human transmutation. You're not supposed to try and bring people back from the dead, but they lost their mom and they wanted to bring her back, and then they make the mistake of trying to do that. I am not going to get out of this very easily, am I? I'm just going to bomb my way out. No, you know what? I'm in a snake pit. Why am I being so stupid? I'm in a snake pit. Get the matic, or whatever it's called. Pickaxe. So Shounen, oh god. Stupid, I hate those snakes so much. I need to get that damsel, but the scorpion's guarding her. I should be able to get it though. I might have to cover this subject another time, because that was just ridiculous. Wow. Okay, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna just swap over to a regular game, and I'm gonna continue talking about this. So it's gonna look like I did much better than I actually did. I got the top out of my friends list, but oh man, I bet he fell down the snake trap too. Regular old adventure, and continue the subject because that was just utterly ridiculous. Another example of a shonen that I don't think should be a shonen is a horror manga series called The Drifting Classroom, and I believe there was a video adaptation of it. So if you are somehow really opposed to reading things, then you could watch I believe there's an anime video of it. But The Drifting Classroom is amazingly well done, and it's about a school of boys who suddenly there's an earthquake in Tokyo, and their school just disappears off the face of the earth. It's just gone. There's a giant hole where the school used to be, just a big old crater, and it changes over to the boys at the school, all the kids at the school, and I don't think it was an all-boys school, I don't remember. It might have been. But it goes back to the school, and suddenly they are in the school still, but it's in the middle of some big flat wasteland, and it's just a horror story about them trying to survive, and it's kind of like a Lord of the Flies kind of thing, where, you know, kids are suddenly having to become adults and try and survive and form their own version of a society as much as they can, that kind of thing. And it's really short. It's only 11 mangas, so it's a quick read, and it's definitely worth reading. Some examples of Seinen are Vagabond, which is about a legendary samurai called Miyamoto Musashi, and it is a very serious and well-illustrated manga. I highly suggest reading it, at least reading the first one to see what you think of it. Blade of the Immortal is about someone who yeah, I'm not going to give any spoilers. Blade of the Immortal is basically about an immortal who's not really immortal, and he has his own personal mission that he's trying to do, and he's made immortal by these things called bloodworms, which don't really completely make him immortal. So it's not like a shonen where he's just, I'm immortal and I can do anything. It's a lot of serious topics, and he's not invulnerable just because he's immortal. Another one is Berserk, and it's very, very, very dark. There's a lot of things that people could find troubling and dark, way too dark for them, so, you know, if you're into dark things, or if you're okay with really, really serious, dark subjects, including looking at humanity as a whole. It's really well done because it starts off with the main character who's just a complete jerk. He is, it's berserk because he is berserk. But he's also a bastard, and he's a badass, and he's got this really huge sword, but you don't really understand how he developed as a character, why he is the way he is. But what happens in the series is, very soon on, the series goes back into a flashback of why he became the way that he is. And that's just brilliant for something to do that. I think that's really clever. Another one would be more on the humorous side, though it's still obviously targeting mature audiences. But it's a lot funnier, and it has a lot more laughing at itself kind of thing. But it's called Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service, and it's about a school of Buddhist monks who graduate, and then the students realize that they have superpowers related to the dead. Particularly, the main character can talk to the dead, and they decide to make a business out of it. So they go around talking to the dead and trying to help the dead resolve their issues that they couldn't because they died. And then they try and get some sort of monetary compensation for it. So like maybe the dead person had a wallet lying around with money in it, or they had invested in something, whatever. So they try and get, money so that they can be a proper business. And the whole story revolves around that. And there are a bunch of little mini stories. That's probably just going to kill the dog. There are a bunch of little mini stories of people that they run into, and they might run into, people that died from unnatural causes and, got murdered, or maybe they committed suicide for reasons that the person tries to deal with. So there's a lot of, it's a lot more serious subjects, but there's also a lot of humor in it. One that was made by the same writer that's a lot more serious and very confusing it's called Multiple Personality Detective Psycho, or MPD Psycho for short. And MPD Psycho follows a detective who has multiple personality disorder. So he has multiple personalities, and whenever he's in one of the personalities, he doesn't remember what the other personality doesn't know what one personality is doing. So you might wake up from having an episode and not know what happened. And the story revolves around that, and his trying to solve a case. So it's definitely a really interesting read, and it's very dark. And I'm probably, if I go back to reading the manga, I'm going to have to start over again because it's so complicated that I'm not going to even remember all the plot twists and stuff. So if that sounds interesting, then definitely check it out. The other one that I was going to mention was called Parasite, and it's very short. The mangas themselves are pretty thick, but it's only 7 mangas long. And that's ridiculously short for a series. And it is about an alien in the form of spores falling down onto the earth and infecting humans, and basically the aliens live off of the humans. They're parasites. So they plant themselves into some part of the human. In the case of the main character, it's his hand, and they're sentient beings. So ends up being an interesting story, and it looks at human nature and a lot of serious subjects that you'd expect from a seinen. And that is all of the ones that I wanted to cover, so I got that taken care of. So I'll just end the video here. So I hope you enjoyed that and watching my failure and maybe being disappointed that I actually didn't do that well because you saw a long video and thought I did really well. I don't know. And I hope that was enjoyable, and I'll see you next time.